Well, good afternoon, Yashika. Fancy seeing you here.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you for having me. Long time no see.
Oh, yeah, at least 3 days, I think. And thank you, and welcome everybody who's popping into this LinkedIn Live and taking the time out of your afternoon to join us with my conversation with Yashika Nayyar. So, for those of you who don't know, Yashika is the founder of It's Simple Club, a bespoke consultancy that works with businesses to build happier workplaces and individuals to take control of their career and life. And talk about being super topical right now. She is also a high performing sales professional, passionate communicator, and advocate for a greater understanding across generations and for supporting younger people to take action. Many hats there. Today, Yashika and I are talking about her book, Walk My Talk, Connecting Generations in a Disconnected World. And there you go, Yashika's holding it up, which is fantastic. And the book is being officially launched next week here in Sydney. And what we're going to chat about today is why she felt compelled to write and publish it, the topic of the multi-generational workplace, and how understanding different generations communicate is vital if everyone is going to be productive and engaged and enjoy their work. You know, pretty important for most of us, I think. I do have to share that Yashika is a client of ours, and we've had a great time. Well, at least I think we have, working on her book, especially now that I'm regarded as part of the older generation, although I loathe that descriptor. If you want to purchase her book, you can go to the Book Advisor website. And if you're in Sydney next Thursday afternoon, you can come to her book launch. So again, Yashika, and my first question for you is, what prompted you to write the book?
Well, you know the story, but I'm gonna share it with all the audiences here. So I'll take you back a little. This is not my first book. This is my second book. So I wrote my first book when I was in school. I was like 17 years old. So what happened was I was in year 10, and we used to have this morning assembly where the entire school would gather, and there'd be announcements made and so on. And that year they were getting kids who scored over 90% on the stage, right? I wasn't that kid. I never scored over 90% after year 8, right? I just lost my touch. But then what that made me think was, this is not the stereotype that we want, that only kids who can score over 90% are smart, or are going to be somewhere, or should be recognized. So like, I'm going to change that. I want a different stereotype. So like, I'm going to write a book, because that's all I could think of, because I didn't have any other talent, but I knew I had strong opinion and I could probably write about it. So and then I think the first book just came to me because I used to talk with my friends, and they'd always say and share stories about their relationship with their parents. So I was like, all right, I have a good relationship with my parents, so something to share. So I wrote my first book called A Tug of War, that was mainly about parent-children relationship. So I was always very, very interested in relationships. And then the next thing happened. I came here, started working, experienced work life. But again, I was very much interested in relationships. And I've gone through a lot of experiences where, at work, your relationships are either not the best, or, there are a lot of layers that you've kind of have to work out throughout your experience. And that is what prompted me to write a second book, that, I'm not alone in this. There's other people having the same problem. And what is the next relationship kind of that I can work on, in a work atmosphere? And I was like, all right, there is a huge generational gap, as we say it, multi-generational workplaces. People don't really understand that, how does intergenerational communication plays a big role. And yeah, I just wanted to share my insights as to how I did it with other people.
There you go. And it's really the zeitgeist at the moment, because you've got 4 or 5 generations in the workplace. So that's a great background as to why you wanted to write your book, Walk My Talk. But there's a big difference between writing a book and then actually self-publishing it and putting yourself out there with it. So, why did you take that step? Because, it's a significant investment in terms of time and money.
I think I had two motivators. One was the motivation that came from myself, from this person that I want to be, and chasing that person because I want to give back by the end of it all and continue to give back. So for me, that was a really important part. And I was like, what are the ways that I can actually do it? And this is, one of the key areas. If you've got a natural talent, you've got to use it. And I think the second one was because I had spent so much time with people who were, older than me, younger than me, mostly older than me, a lot of C-level executives, even yourself. And, when they meet you and they see something in you and they tell you, you're meant to go somewhere or you're meant to be something, you can't let people down. And I think that was, the biggest, the second biggest encouragement for me, when I see that pride in my family's eyes, when I meet you and you have that trust in me, that you'll do it. And I think that's what keeps me motivated, that I gotta do it. And that's why it's so important to have that connection with older people, because this somehow them saying something good to you matters.
There you go. Yeah, I'm still getting my head around being older, but yeah, never mind.
You still are my best mate, so it's okay.
That's my issue, not yours. Hey, so for those people who haven't had an opportunity to buy and read your book yet, can you give us a quick overview of how the book is structured? What's actually in it?
So there are 10 key chapters. And what we do in those 10 key chapters is we present different perspectives of younger generation and, I would say executives, not older generation, since, we're not really going to talk anything about old, okay? So, and basically we're just going to explore, some of the assumptions, stereotypes, judgments, as sometimes what it is that we're thinking about a different generation, which might not be true, or what it is that they don't know about your generation, or they don't know what's going on in your head. And basically how I did it was, with my experience, but also when I spoke to a lot of CEOs, a lot of heads, but also a lot of people from my generation, I figured out that, all right, there's a big gap. There are these things that exist, but people don't know because no one talks about it. I'll give you an example from the book itself. Say we're talking about, feedback and criticism, right? So someone who's an executive would probably say feedback is allowed, criticism is not. But do we all know how and where do we draw the line? Or someone who's younger would say feedback can come across as quite confusing when we receive criticism dressed as feedback. So there's a lot of dialogues that go in our heads, our personality, but also, because we come from different generations. And, it just is a key to understand what might be going on in someone else's head who is probably not gone to the same school as you, or, is not from the same generation as you.
Yeah, interesting that, my son the other day was on the phone to me and he said, "Oh, Mum, I've got to bounce." I'm going,
Yeah.
Like bounce where? I bounce when I'm at the gym on the ball, but anyway. But I think it raises a really interesting issue around that different generations have different experiences, and we do communicate with different styles. So why do you think it's so hard for different generations to communicate well in the workplace?
Well, I'm going to say something which might come across as a little bit brutal, lack of effort. That is the biggest thing, lack of effort. There's one thing where there's communication, right? And then there's another where if you're not going to make the effort to know someone, other than the surface level, you're never going to know. If I didn't had a conversation with you, Jackie, more than just, like if I just sit there and say, "Oh, Jackie's old," I don't know, right? And but I don't really, try to take something out of Jackie. Or if you would just dismiss me, like, "Oh, she's super young, she talks a lot, maybe she doesn't have enough in her," right? But if it's when you get to know me and you make that effort, that's how the communication works. But also making an effort to understand, don't just assume, try to understand that what might be going on in someone's else's head. Executives sometimes might not be ignoring you. They might just be too busy with, the commitments they have and, they do have a personal life too. And also, younger generation, as much as they think they're smart, knowing technology and everything, they do probably also still need your support, but maybe they just don't know how to say it. So I think that is one of the key areas: lack of effort, assumptions, and not really trying to figure out what is actually that the person is thinking.
Yeah, great points. Do you think millennials and Gen Z are misunderstood? And if so, why?
I think we all are misunderstood, whether it's baby boomers, Gen Zs, or millennials. Like, there's this younger person who thinks that, baby boomers probably are outdated. They're not outdated. You gotta learn the old tricks. You gotta figure out what are the methods that got them this far. They definitely have lived longer than you. So they definitely know more. And then on the other hand, sometimes, older people think, and they almost have this, I wouldn't say insecurity, but like, that we probably don't know technology like these guys do. But that does not mean we can't, take anything from you, or we don't need much from you. So I think we all are misunderstood in, one way or the other.
And do you even think that these labels like baby boomer and Gen Z are even helpful? I mean, really, do we need to just move on from them?
Yes, we do. Because there's so many of them. And the other day I was like, so am I a millennial or am I a Gen Z? Oh no, I'm actually right in the middle of both, right at the cusp of being a millennial and a Gen Z. But then why do we need these? Because what it does is these labels give us an opportunity to support our judgment. And we don't want any of that opportunities, right? Like, when we've already had that stereotypes in our head. And again, we
Yeah,
all are
I
human
think we've
beings,
just
right? We
lost a
can't be
bit of
perfect.
connection there. I'm not sure.
Wait,
It's
am I
interesting
back
that
now?
Yashika said that because I figure myself as in between two generations. So I don't like being a baby boomer and then I'm possibly something else, but I've just dumped the labels altogether.
Am I back now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, so I was saying, with all these labels, it just supports and gives people a reason to, support the stereotypes that they might already have. That, oh, they're like this because they're a baby boomer. No, they're like this because that's their personality. Not all baby boomers are like that. So, it's just, yeah, they're too confusing, and, sometimes too much work. Should get rid of
Yeah,
them.
I'm with you on that. Um, what do you want the reader to take away from your book, and what actions do you want them to take?
I think what I would, like anyone to take away from, what I've got to present is, so there are actually, I'll just show what how I've done it is, there are little areas where you can actually put your notes. So when you're going through the dialogues, don't just read them, and please don't just always agree with me, but write some questions that you think that you can ask yourself around that. And what it does is it just doesn't tell you what someone else might be thinking, but it also helps you understand how you unconsciously, or without any intention, might be creating that communication barrier, or you might not be being fully out there. So I think that is one thing. So when you're reading it, just don't just read it like there's no, it's not giving you advice, but also ask yourself and self reflect as to do I really do this, and if I do, why do I do this, and is there something I can do better. And some things that I would say everyone, in each one of us, can do it is every single day make an effort. Like, just have a target that weekly I at least want to connect with 2 or 3 people who are not my generation. Like, what I used to do is I had to speak to at least 4 to 5 people, or catch up for a coffee or whatever it is, who are not my generation, who are older. And I think these are some things that we can do, and we can only do it, like, we can do it in our own workplace as well. So a couple
Great.
of things that I was saying everyone can do at their workplaces is, just have that goal every week that, I want to connect with 2 or 3 people who are not from my generation, or or actually try to get to know someone just more than the surface level. And I think these are, little steps we can do every single day. Like, and when we are saying something to someone on Teams chat, just be a little bit more cautious. I don't know about other people, but it really, I don't. I don't know, it really just triggers me when I say this whole thing and someone just says, okay. I'm like, okay, cool. I just wrote a whole essay. That's it. Okay. But yeah, I think just, making a little bit of effort with your communication would take you a long way.
And that's a really interesting point you make, Yashika, in terms of, you talk about emailing, but, some different, my son prefers to text rather than me to call him, and I prefer to call people and talk to them. So even the technology that we're using to communicate is different often in terms of preferences between generations.
Yeah. And I think we just all have to be a little bit more adjusting. If I don't to the other person's style as well. So if I don't say, for example, I really prefer calling everyone, but I know not everyone likes to, receive a call, but I'll give it a go anyways. And if the other person tells me, hey, don't call me, email me, I was like, all right, I'll email you, but I'll give it a go. And then I'll adjust to their style that, okay, this person does not prefer to be called every time. So I'm just going to email them. So I think it's just getting to know someone. And sometimes I think if they know you and really know you, they might be happy to adjust to your style and they might be happy to take a call from you.
Yeah, and I think just on that too, also, I think there's something that I've noticed is that someone from your age group, I won't say generation, from your age group, often they expect more immediate answers. So if you haven't called somebody or texted somebody back, to a question or something within like an hour, I sometimes get a text and say, well, where are you?
Yeah.
And it might take me a day to get back to somebody.
Yeah, we are an impatient bunch, aren't we? But I think that's exactly why we need older people, people who can help us structure a little bit better and know that, it's not just all about us. It's not just all about what we want from people, but it's also more about if they can deliver in the time delivery that you wanted. And also, if I really, really want you to get back to me straight away, I would set my expectations that, it'll be good if you can respond back as soon as you can.
Here we go.
Yeah, just don't be lazy, say everything that you want.
Hey, and tell me, just going back to the book process, what's the most interesting thing you learnt about yourself going through the book process?
Oh, that I knew more than I thought I knew. But also, that all the experiences that I went through in life, they were worth something. When you look back and you think about that difficult day you had or a difficult boss you had or all these experiences, and I figured out that, they made me who I am and they gave me all this information that, today that I'm capable of, sharing it with other people. And I think one other thing that I learned about myself was I don't want to read my book for 4 times in a row in a span of a week.
So is that what you had to do?
It's a great book. It's a great book, but I can only read it once, and then I need a break for at least 2-3 weeks before I go back to it. But yeah.
That's interesting, and I think really the reality is that for the books I've written, I've probably read them, I don't know, a dozen times. But it is hard work to kind of read your book and then remove yourself from it so you can read it freshly again, because it's quite a challenging thing to be able to do.
Absolutely, and I thank God every day I had you. I wouldn't be able to do it all by myself, not at all. And what I really realized was it's a journey. It's not just, you've got something in your head and you just do it. But the more people you have in that journey and with anything in life, the better. Because when you're at the end of it, you just know that, you're not alone in this. And I think having you was, the best. But the only reason it's out is because I did it with you. And I don't think I have the capacity to write any book myself. Like, you've just got me for life now. I'm going to keep pestering you, Jackie.
That's not a problem. And so tell me about your launch. When's the launch and where is it at? And what's going to be going on at the launch?
So we're doing it next Thursday, 29th of February, because I was like, well, it only happens once in 4 years. So I should really make the most use of that day. And we're going to do it here at the Salesforce Tower. I think it's 180 George Street on what level are we on? 22. But I'll have someone waiting for you guys downstairs. If anyone is interested
Oh,
to
that's
come between
fantastic.
6 and 8 p.m. And we're going to have different generations attending the launch. We're not going to talk too much about myself, but more about, the book itself. And we're going to do a little bit of presentation about, um, how it looks like when the communication does not happen right, or what are the little things we can do to help with intergenerational communication. And yeah, we're just gonna network, have a drink, and have fun, and get to know some more people.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, before you go, I've got a bit of a quiz that I often run past people. Are you up for that, Yashika?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. How do you read books? Do you read them as a printed book online, or do you prefer to listen to podcasts, or how do you take in information?
Printed book, old school. My mom always used to be like, why do you have to carry 3 books in your bag? They like, don't they make it your handbag like so heavy? Like, no, you don't know what it's like to hold a book.
Okay. And
Read it.
where's your favorite place to read?
Bed, in my bed, and sometimes on the train.
Okay, yeah. And tell me, when you have a printed book, do you use post-it notes, or do you fold over the corners to mark important pages?
Just write all over it. So no one can ever borrow a book from me because I've written all over it. And like sometimes if I don't know the meaning of something, I literally write the whole meaning there. Like, I'm still in school.
Right. And tell me, when you're reading a book, do you read it from beginning to end, or do you do what a colleague of mine once said is read a few, skip a few?
Well, I don't read introductions, but then from start to end, I have to just go through the entire bit. Like I can't go in between, like, because I'm like, that fear of missing out. Like, what if I miss out like an important part that is connected to something else? So I just have to go from page 1 to the last page.
That's interesting because, working with you on your book, it's actually a book that you can actually go into a particular chapter
Yeah.
and actually get quite a lot of value out of that individual chapter.
Yeah, you can literally open any page of the book and you'd still know what's happening.
Yeah, so that's quite a clever thing in a way. And tell me, do you ever loan your books out, or are you a hoarder and you keep them?
I'm a hoarder all the way. And I knew, like, when I came to Australia, like initially, I was like, books are so expensive here, right? So, and like, I wasn't like, and I was just doing, normal jobs here and there and doing shifts. And I didn't have money to go buy a $60 book. And the only books I could afford was like, there was this shop at Central Station and they do like, I don't know, secondhand books, but I still just wanted to buy books. So that was like mine. So yeah, I've collected a lot of books, but I haven't read them all actually.
There you go. So just before we go, Yashika, and I know we covered this, in terms of if there was one message that for younger people that you would like them to take out of your book, because whilst you do have both, an older and a young, senior executive and a younger person, the book's themes are really much based around, I think, younger people and I guess taking control of their lives and what they do. So, what would be your core message to, I guess, your generation?
I think I'd say is if you want to accelerate your journey and if you really want to get somewhere, don't miss out on the FaceTime that you can have today with someone who's older than you. And when I say I'm going to emphasize FaceTime, actually being in their presence, not a Teams chat, not a virtual call, but actually being around them. And the more you are around people who've achieved a certain level of success and have gone through that journey of their life, whether it's in personal or professional area, the more you're going to be able to, shape your life in the best way possible.
Great. So, and we've had a chat about this, about the real, I think, longer term consequences of certainly younger generations working from home too much, that they're going to miss out on a lot of that incidental, I guess, mentoring and knowledge passing through that comes just by being in an office. And whilst it
Yeah,
might be easier to work from home, I think there are potentially quite a lot of downsides for younger people in their career progression.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I can go for hours about this, but we don't have time.
Yeah, no, we don't. We don't. Hey, look, thank you so much for your time today. If you could hold up your book again, so everybody's getting a sneak peek of it. It's called Walk My Talk. And I will remember the conversation Yashika and I had here at Work Club when she came up with that title, and we just thought it's said everything that we wanted it to say. So, Yashika, congratulations on your book. Look forward to being your MC at the launch next week. And there will be some details about where you can buy it coming up next. And the simple way is to go to the Book Advisor website, and we've got a shop there, and you can buy it from there. And there's some other books there as well. Thank you, Yashika, for your time today. I've learnt a lot working with you on this book, and now I can happily say that we're going to bounce off this LinkedIn Live and get on with the rest of our days.